Welcome to Bicycle Retail Radio, presented by the National Bicycle Dealers Association. This is where bicycle retailers, industry innovators, and advocates come together for real conversations about what's happening right now in bike retail, from cargo bikes to carbon fiber. Each episode explores the challenges you're facing, the opportunities ahead, and the people driving our industry forward. We go beyond the surface to uncover practical strategies, fresh perspectives, and authentic stories from shop owners who've been where you are. Whether you're navigating staffing challenges, adapting to market shifts, or looking for your next breakthrough idea, this is your community. Since 1946, the NBDA has been in the trenches with specialty bicycle retailers, providing education, advocacy, and connection when you need it most. Want to be a part of this community? Learn more about NBDA membership at nbda.com.
Before we begin today's episode, we're celebrating a milestone. For 80 years, the National Bicycle Dealers Association has worked alongside specialty bicycle retailers to help them succeed. Throughout August, we're celebrating our history, our members, and the future of our industry. Celebrate 80 years of the NBDA by becoming part of our future. Join this August. Save with code NBDA80 and help us build the next 80 years together. Visit nbda.com/join to be part of the legacy.
Welcome back to Bicycle Retail Radio. Thanks for being here. Today I'm talking with Steph Allen. She's National Sales Manager at Giant Bicycle. We talk about her journey from discovering cycling later in life to building a dynamic career that spans retail, demo programs, and national leadership. Steph offers personal insights on what makes a great retail experience and the lessons she's learned working directly with shops and riders. Lots of advice for retailers looking to grow their business and connect more deeply with their communities. I do hope you enjoy this. Steph, welcome to Bicycle Retail Radio. Thanks for being here.
Thrilled to be here.
Oh my God, I am thrilled for this. I think you and I spoke a couple of years ago at Bentonville Bike Fest, and we were just talking about past retailers we had worked with and our journey in the industry. And next thing we know, here we are, and both of us are continuing to really take leadership roles and doing things that are helping others. So I'm thrilled for this conversation. I'm a little what do I ask Steph? I'm a little it's the feedback that I get from retailers about how you've impacted their business over the years just continues. It's almost weekly. I hear from someone, Steph. So thank you for the work you're doing.
That's very gracious. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So for our listeners, let's just do some background and then we'll get into the whole rest. I have a bunch of questions teed up here that I want to ask you. For people who aren't familiar with you, maybe you could take us back to when you first got into cycling. I always like to start there because it's a passion sport, right?
Yeah. I think that a lot of people that work in the industry, they find cycling at a very young age. I did not. I went through a divorce around 27 years old and moved back in with my parents. That's a great feeling, let me tell you, to feel like you're finally an adult and then you're turning back to your parents. And my dad was biking every day at the time. And I think that he really saw that I was lost. I didn't have a great sense of self or purpose or direction. And he got me on a bike. It was his backup bike. It was a 54 centimeter KHS Flight 500. I'm 5'2". But back then I didn't know bikes had different sizes, right? I was just there on our early morning rides on the Tri-County Triangle Bike Trail in Chillicothe, Ohio, just biking with my dad, that I realized very quickly, there was something about this. There was something about that experience. And it was more than just him and I doing it, but it was something in that bike that it was all on me. It was my ability to turn the pedal over, to project myself forward. And I think not to get overly emotional, but it really started to heal all of these wounds that I had that were invisible and also give me a sense of self and purpose and definition. And I think I'd lost a lot of that. So I came into cycling at a very vulnerable spot as a young adult. And because of that, it really allowed me to see all the different uses that a bike could be for so many people.
Oh my gosh, Steph, like thanks for sharing. Very personal story. And I think many of us in the industry, we started cycling in high school or even younger. And I personally forget that some people past 20 that haven't found cycling yet. Like it's not like I forget that. I'm wondering when you're working with a retailer, you walk into a store, is that something you still carry with you in your role that people start later in life? Like it's something I forget often.
Yeah, I think because it's fresher, right? Because your starting point is later in life, you remember. So it's easier to go back. And remembering what it was like to walk into a bike shop for the first time and see all of the bikes on the wall and on the floor. And if you're just not into cycling or you don't know when you walk in, it doesn't look like there's 20 different segments or models of bikes. It looks like there's hundreds of the same bike. And it's a bit overwhelming. And I think that I never, ever, ever want to forget that feeling or where that is. Also, there's a lot of people that maybe had cycling at a very young age, like children, right? Like that first sense of freedom, but then they move away from it. And then as an adult, really have a need to come back to something. We don't get to play team sports much as an adult, right? So we have to find this individual way to participate in sport, and cycling's a great way. And my joke with runners is you're just one injury away from being a great cyclist. So there's a lot of reasons why adults might refine cycling too. And it's easy to forget that.
I know. Now I'm like all motivated, like all these people who haven't found the sport yet, how can we reach them? The bicycle is just such a good thing to like pedal away stress or regain confidence. There's so many wonderful things about the bicycle. It's my favorite place to escape to. Hey, Steph, you joined us in Bentonville for the Women in Bicycle Industry inaugural summit that we held there. And you gave a really powerful story about your entry into, I have goosebumps even thinking about it, your journey into cycling. And you spoke about your first experience in a bicycle store. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you to share a little bit about that and why that moment sticks out.
Yeah, I'm happy to. And thank you for asking and giving me the audience to tell the story, because I think it's a great one. And I shared with this at the Women in the Bicycle Industry Summit too. I look back at this moment and often reflect on how many ways it could have gone differently when I needed to actually buy my first bike that was mine. I live in Lexington, Kentucky. There at the time were 5 other bike shops in town. People sold bikes on Facebook Marketplace. So, I could have bought a bike on Facebook Marketplace. I could have gone to one of the 5 other bike shops in town. And my now husband and I were leaving a funeral, and we happened to be driving by Pedal Power. And so Pedal Power Bike Shop, we decided to stop. And of all of the people we could have been greeted by that day, and I think that this is important, right? Because especially now, you could be greeted by somebody that's having a bad day, or more than likely not even greeted at all. But we were greeted by John Baumstark, who at the time was just an hourly employee at Pedal Power. He's now a part owner. And it was pretty spectacular because John didn't know me. He didn't know anything about me. He didn't know what I did, and certainly did not know about the bike, like that they come in multiple sizes, right? But the thing that he did that's incredible is he didn't talk down to me. He didn't talk over me. He didn't once interrupt me. He didn't look at my husband that I walked into the store with that day, who at the time was not my husband. And he didn't look at him for clarification or validation, which he wouldn't have been able to help him anyway. And he just listened to what my goals were, what I wanted to do. For John, it wasn't about this being a tool to heal me or to help me prove something to myself. It was just, he sold tools. I was in need of a tool. Mm-hmm. He wanted to make sure that I had the exact tool I needed to not just achieve my goal, but to exceed it. And it was in that interaction that he really made me a lifetime customer, and ultimately ended up selling my husband a bike too, so that we could ride together, right? So I just remember being so overwhelmed walking in that shop. And also being a woman, feeling this need to like know everything be assertive, but in a place where I knew nothing.
Yeah.
So I immediately felt like I was on the back foot. And here was this man, and he received me exactly where I stood toe to toe with me, and just got me to the finish line of what I needed.
I love the story because all the little seconds in our life add up, and had that interaction gone differently, I mean, Steph, we wouldn't be having this podcast right
No, we
now.
wouldn't. And John hates when I say this. He hates it. Like it makes him cringe, and I can't wait because he'll listen to this. But that interaction changed the trajectory of my career and really the trajectory of my life. And I don't forget that ever.
I mean, you made a big career shift. You were in the pharmacy industry, correct, Steph? And then,
Yeah, at the time, my family owns a pharmacy in Southern Ohio. My grandfather owned it. My father owned it. My brother now owns it. And I worked in the pharmacy all growing up. I've done other jobs. You might not know this. I did a stint as a hairdresser.
oh, nice.
It turns out I don't do well dealing with problems and emotions when it comes to personal life. So then found myself back working at a pharmacy. And that's what I was doing when I was at Pedal Power one day as a customer. And they were all joking around about somebody came in and wanted a job, but they didn't want to hand a resume or fill out an application. And he's like, I don't need a resume. I ride bikes. And I think I made a joke like, I ride bikes and I have a resume. Will you hire me? It ultimately led to me sitting in front of the owner, Billy Yates, the next week for a job interview. And I go home and I'm talking about this with my husband. And I'm like, so I think I'm going to quit the pharmacy and go take 1 year and work at a bike shop and just learn as much as I can. And really taking the job was more for my own selfish personal gain. I wanted to know more about biking. I wanted to know how I could become a better cyclist. I wanted, of course, the discounts were a perk, but it was more the knowledge that was the incentive. And for the first time in my life, I really felt like, oh, I get this. Like I belong here.
So, working at Pedal Power, and John is just so amazing. He's part of our P2 program. I've seen their shop just grow over the years. It's a fantastic shop. We're going there in the fall to visit him. But working there, I think you saw that retailers, shop staff, they wear so many hats. They just do sales, service writing, wrenching, whatever needs to be done. And now that you're in the role you're in, for me, working on the retail side too, that was very valuable for me. Do you feel like that experience shaped your understanding of like what's happening at the retail level and what it looks like day to day in the shop?
Yeah, I think in this job and the role that I have now, it's really my true north, right? It's the why or the question or the foundational question of every decision we make. Because at the end of the day, that's who my customer now is Pedal Power. And I have to be able to lay my head down at night knowing that I have to account and answer for the decisions that get made with the shop that's my friends and my family. But I think that it's easy to forget about that interaction with the end consumer, where the shop has to do it every day, right? And there's a lot of fatigue and exhaustion and joy and pleasure that all gets mixed in and comes from that. But I think that there's so much value in understanding the tactical parts of all of the different jobs. And at Pedal Power, at that shop at least, you didn't have the luxury of just being one thing. That's not how they at the time ran their team, right? So if you were in sales, you also had to know how to service right. You had to know how to do at least basic repairs or maintenance, basic bike fitting to get customers comfortable on a bike. You had to have all of the foundational knowledge and skills. And I think it's that foundation that really grows a valuable and impactful education on how to reach that end consumer.
Steph, what a bold like path to find cycling at 27, leave the pharmaceutical industry, take a role in a bicycle store. And I think you were the only female at that time, which can be intimidating, right?
At the time, I was the only female on staff. Now, I will say it was not intimidating at all, but I grew up with a lot of boys. I have 4 brothers. I am of the 5 kids, I am the only daughter. And I think my brothers and my dad and all of the men in my life really raised me that there's nothing that's a limiting factor in what you can and can't do. And so being around banter or those kind of things never really fazed me. So I felt very comfortable there. But I would think that a lot of those kind of environments where you're the only are very dependent on who all of the others are, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And in this environment, thankfully for me, the men that I worked with refused for me not to know how to do something or be able to do something. So super and encouraging. I don't know that they ever thought that my gender was a limiting factor in what I could or couldn't do, which just makes you thrive and grow so much faster.
I think if you're like a fearless person and bold, like we have Bill Miller on our team. I mean, you know, Bill, and he's the only guy on our team. So we could ask him the same question, right? But Bill's got this like leadership mentality. And I've seen based on your presentation in Bentonville that you quickly went on to work on the supply side, becoming a demo driver, which is a whole thing in itself. I mean, that's a big thing to take on. And then that progressed into account executive to regional sales and now national sales manager. I mean, it's impressive and frankly inspiring stuff.
Thanks.
What advice for those like who are listening maybe who are like, wow, I could take on cycling later in life. I could change careers. We could even look outside the bicycle industry and do something else later in life. Any advice like you'd give?
I had this question in advance, so I feel pretty prepared for it. The most important thing I think is to start being a lot more comfortable where you are. I think that we tend, especially if we have an ounce of ambition at all, we're always thinking about the next. And we forget that it's really important to get really good at the now and just live in this moment or in the space that we're in. And I think to understand the tactical part of the job you're doing at the most basic level, and then build on it and not forget it, right? So if where you start, continue to move that starting point with you as you grow. Like all of the places that you have been, carry that with you. I had the luxury of working at my family business when I was a very little girl. And sometimes that job meant cleaning toilets or picking up cigarette butts out of the sidewalk. And I never ever want to be too good to scrub a toilet or pick up cigarette butts out of a sidewalk, right? And so not forgetting the foundational knowledge. I would like to think that if I left here, this room today, and walked into a bike shop, I could walk in and help and contribute and be of value. I'd like to think that if one of my account executives was out sick and needed me to call their retailers, that I could do that, that I could place sales orders, put things on back order, ship things, right? Like, I think that the biggest part of growth is that you have to be where you are to ever grow forward and not to get so quickly into the next that you didn't spend enough time in the now.
I love that. I love that answer. It's so true.
Look USA wants to earn your business. Look manufactures pedals for most any enthusiast cyclist. We have an unmatched 40 years experience designing and manufacturing pedals that connect you to your bike. Our pedal range spans $40 platform pedals to our flagship dual-sided power pedals. We make pedals for road or off-road use. We can be your primary pedal partner. Pedals have been our passion since day one. Look's boutique bike offerings are true works of art with purpose. Offer your riders something unique so that their dream bike isn't a clone of thousands of the same model from major brands. Stock and custom builds are available with real-time inventory visibility on our B2B. Email us at sales.usa@lookcycle.com. We would love to connect.
All right. So I want to just come back here for a moment because I mentioned demo driver. Our listeners might be like, what? So that's a big role to take on. Back when we had our brands with their demo fleets and the demo driver would basically travel a large region, putting on events, working with retailers, working with riders. It's hands-on and very fast moving.
Yeah.
Do you look back on that time and can you still apply that to the now? And I can't even, I mean, that's a lot, Steph, a lot of nights on the road there.
So Liz Walker and I did the math on this one day. Liz, who's now with Continental, Dr. Walker, actually now. We did the math on this one day and we were like pulling up our expense reports and we figured out that we were averaging 275 nights
Oh,
like on the road a year. I loved it. I can't even talk about that time without exuding this smile. It's the bike industry equivalent of being a bartender because you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what kind of clientele or customer or night you're going to get. And sometimes it's slow and sometimes it's so busy that you don't even have time to think. But I think that the ability to like pivot and move, constantly be on your feet, constantly be used to transition has really ultimately conditioned me to just be a lot better at going with the ever changing flow of things.
yeah, that is true. Just go with the ever-changing flow. I like the analogy of being a bartender. It is. You never know what you're going to get. Let's talk about just your first bike. It ties into your family. You mentioned it briefly. I think, what was it, a 54 centimeter? I can't remember now.
So it's my dad's backup bike
Okay.
that he had. I think he bought it for maybe my sister-in-law originally. Katie, she's much taller than I am. But then I don't know why we had it, but he had an extra bike in the garage and it was this bike and it didn't fit at all, but I didn't know that. We're adaptable humans on adjustable machines.
I like it. I like it. We are. Let's get into your role at Giant Bicycles, working with retailers. You went from pedal power to the demo position, then at Giant, working in a role where you're helping retailers, specialty bicycle retailers, choose the best product, help with sell through. And from what I have learned from retailers that you worked closely with, is that you were just someone they could rely on, depend on. You gave your honest answer. You really were looking out for them and making it like helping them make a strategic plan that was good for the brand, but also good for their business, which doesn't happen every day. We want to hope it does, but the experience that you provided stood out to them. So I'd like to like reverse that question and flip it to you. With all the retailers you worked with, was there any experience at retail that really stood out to you?
I think that anytime I'm in a shop, I notice a lot of things, right? I notice how the shop is merchandised. I notice how many rings the phone rings before somebody gets it. I notice if employees are standing in there while they can visibly see somebody struggling to get a bike into the door and they're not like sprinting to the door to help a customer, or if a customer's rolling their bike out after leaving the service department and staff aren't running to get to the door. So I think the thing that stands out to me at the end of the day is the human interaction, the people part. How staff at bike shops engage with their customers. There's almost a direct correlation between that and how the shop looks. And I might be delusional in this thinking, but if I think of every single retailer that I walk into and my eyes are surveying, my ears are open on all of these fronts. And the shops that are quick to answer the phone, that are quick to greet customers, not just like, how can I help you, but just genuinely like, welcome in, we're glad you're here. I see a direct correlation between that and a transaction at the cash register. I used to joke, I'd call it rings and dings. When the doorbell on this, I'm going to age myself a little, when a door opens and the bell rings, right? And the cash register dings. Those are the shops that stand out, the shops that are just really, really good at engaging with their customers.
Yeah, all those little things do add up, right? The way that we treat people when they come into the store and we go that extra mile. And you're right, there's a correlation. It's almost like that staff and that team like truly cares, and that trickles down into like the merchandising and the displays and everything that follows.
No, it does. And also, I think that the more knowledgeable the staff is about the products that you are carrying, the better that they can help guide a consumer to the right decision or the right conclusion. I don't want to go off script, but we're flowing. I think that the beautiful thing about independent bicycle dealers is the word independent. And I also think it's the word that gets lost the quickest when times get hard, right? I want more than anything for the most important brand in any bike shop to be their own brand. And I think when shops recognize their bike shop, whoever it is, John Doe's bike shop, I think when John Doe's Bike Shop recognizes that John Doe's Bike Shop isn't just a bike shop, but they're a brand, and that people come for them. There's a lot of power and freedom in that for independent bicycle dealers. And you can kind of quickly walk into shops and identify which ones are just a shop and which ones really see themselves as a brand.
Yeah, I think the shops that do own that they are the brand, any product they bring in, anything they get behind in the store, their customers, their community will trust them because they trust that store. They trust the brand. So
yeah.
What about where you see, and I hate to go a little bit negative, but the opportunity for our listeners to hear firsthand and hopefully if they're failing in this area, improve. But where do you see some bicycle retailers maybe falling short when it comes to even new riders? I mean, you were once like a new rider entering a store. You've shared your very positive experience, but I know you've worked with a lot of retailers and you've also seen some things that maybe makes you feel like, oh, this isn't working.
Yeah, you're right. I have. I definitely see a correlation. Let me take one step back and say what's interesting about where we are right now at this moment in time is the influx in e-bikes into the market, right? And e-bikes are bringing in a lot of new riders. And where those customers are finding the e-bikes are sometimes interesting. But at the end of the day, those customers don't know how to work on or service their e-bikes. So I feel like I've seen a lot of customers find themselves in a bicycle shop for a need to repair something that they bought maybe not at that bicycle shop, maybe secondhand or through alternative sources. Where I see things a lot of times go wrong is the lack of embrace for that customer, almost a sense of resentment for them. So I think not everyone, right? Like this is not a blanket accusation at all. I do feel like our service departments across the stores that I've engaged with could probably polish up how they receive those customers or work on framing expectations accordingly in a way that doesn't feel punitive. Because you really have a customer there that, okay, so they have a bike. It might not be the right bike. You might not be able to immediately get them into the correct bike or the better bike that they need, but you might be immediately able to remove some pain points and after sales things, accessories, helmets, teaching them how to change a flat. And that's really where that trust and that customership, I know that's not a word, I'm just going with it, comes from. And I think that's the biggest opportunity for improvement.
I love that you brought that up. I tried to, when I had my store, tell my staff, like, look at every person who comes in the door as someone that you genuinely care about, that you want to help them improve, like their ride comfort, their joy of cycling, where they want to go. And when you start looking at everyone who comes in your door as someone that you want to help, not like make a judgment, we can really impact people's lives. We can take like the person who, is training for their first triathlon. We can help them with gearing. We can help them with handlebar width. I mean, there's so many little things that we can help people like make their ride more enjoyable and dynamic. But we all are human, right? And sometimes we have these bad days. So like staff roundup where you're bringing the team together and you're doing that reminder, hey, we have an opportunity here with everyone who comes in the door. We're all on different journeys.
And it's like seeing the opportunity in those moments too. Every single bike that doesn't have a bottle cage on it that comes to your service department is an opportunity to sell a bottle cage, right? Because the benefit of it. It's hot. It gets hot outside. And I think that we forget to look for the little things. There's a Tanzanian proverb I really like, and it's a little by a little becomes a lot. I think it's just focusing on the basics, those very small incremental changes. And then you step back and you look, it's like, look what focusing on the small things has accomplished.
Yeah. Gosh, Steph, even like leading a women's ride and going out with women who are first-time cyclists who are uncomfortable, reaching down to grab the water bottle out of the cage and they have to pull over. And it's like, we forget these things. So like if a retailer could put a bike on a trainer and walk a person through like just how to do that, not the same as being out on the road, but these little things, they do add up. I talked a little bit about the staff and doing like a staff, I used to bring my staff together and remind everyone, like, we have an opportunity today. You've worked at a store as a team member and you've worked with retailers and seen how different retailers engage or empower their staff. for retailers who are listening, any tips, anything that you would suggest to make sure that they're getting their staff motivated to help them create these stronger, lasting customer relations?
Yeah, I think that from the starting, it's important that you have the right staff, right? And I think that it's okay for shop owners to do a better job of analyzing their staff and trying to make sure their staff is correct. And if you find that you don't have the correct staff and you're not going to get them there, I promise you, there are 100 people waiting in line to have this job, right? To have a job in the industry, and they will be right. So not to be afraid to think, oh my God, I need this person. Just because they're a warm body. If the only reason you have a staff person standing in your door is because they're a warm body, that's not a good enough reason. So I think first, having the right staff that is teachable, that you can train up, that can engage with your customers in a right way, reduces a lot of liability. And then second, it's just remember, if you're a shop owner, why you're here, why you're doing it, right? We all need our true north. We all need that like grounding thing that reminds us what we are doing and why we are doing it. And I think that if you don't know what that is, the most important priority is to figure that out.
Yeah, I could not agree more, Steph. I couldn't agree more. All right, let's talk about the future. The future. Are there any trends or changes in the industry that are kind of exciting you right now?
Well, it's not 32-inch wheels.
Come on, Steph.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. Kind of touched on it already. The tech, right? I think we are making it easier and easier to ride a bicycle. We are removing all of the, technology, and all of the things that we're coming out with are removing a lot of the pain points for a lot of riders and ridership, from the big stuff like flight attendant or adaptive suspension to the very little things like micro battery inflatable pumps or the battery pumps. I think that all of those things, from whether you're a new rider to whether you're a very advanced rider, it's just making it easier to be a better rider or to enjoy riding your bike more. And when you like doing something, you're more apt to do it. So I think the thing that really excites me when I look to the future are all the little kind of gadgets and gizmos and tech, or the things that they're even building into the bike just to make the bike more comfortable and accessible for everybody at every level of riding.
How do you think like retailers are? So we're taping now in June of 2026. You were just with a bunch of retailers in Bentonville. What do you think like retailers, are they optimistic about the rest of this year? Are they, maybe getting a little more business focused and understanding their numbers more? Are they looking to work with suppliers closer? Just anything you're sensing from retailers for the second half of this year?
I hope it's the latter of what you said, but I really feel like it's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
It's funny, you can be in a market. I was just in a market and I saw one retailer and they were super optimistic and they're up 20%, right, this year. And then I saw another retailer and you would have felt like it was doom and gloom and doomsday. And I don't know that there is a consistent trend for me to point you in that direction. And this is separate from brands that shops carry too, right? Because I'll be in a shop, they carry the exact same brands. They're having one experience. And then in a different market, again, same number of locations, same number of brands, and have a very different experience. I do think there's a lot of comfort that comes in knowing your numbers. So that's why I said I hope it's the latter. I think a lot of shop owners get into this industry for passion, for creating that experience, for that end consumer, that engagement, that moment that John gave me, right? I think that that's what keeps a lot of businesses going, but it's got to be more than that. Your business has to be able to function from a dollars and cents perspective. And so I think the independent bicycle dealer network is getting a lot better at understanding that it's not just enough anymore to show up and turn the lights on and put the open sign on. They have to get all the way up to their elbows dirty and understanding their numbers, their inventory, what their business really looks like.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel like we have more engagement from MBDA members. They're reaching out, they're asking for more resources, which means to me that, okay, they're more invested in like really understanding the parts of their business. And the same time, I'm going to agree with you 100%, like same market, same brands, one retailer experiencing a totally different experience. It's interesting. All I can say is sharpen the axe and keep focused. And, I feel confident we're going to get through.
And going back to, what I said earlier, which is just really making the most important brand in your store your brand. The most important thing to you should be your business, speaking directly to a retailer. Tides change, right? Like, not to use a bicycle pun, but everything's kind of cyclical and it goes around. And so just minding your own ship, controlling your controllables, so important.
I was going to ask you for parting advice. You just gave us that. Is there any other parting advice? If the shop wants to take their customer experience or even the way they're connecting with their community, which is something we've been talking a lot about, just growing ridership, things that retailers might want to focus on?
I think it's that. I think it's growing ridership, right? It seems every brand is diversifying their distribution network, whether it's D2C or their own store or seeking alternate distribution methods. And so the one thing that shops can do to really control their environment is creating that sense of community, creating that need to go to the shop. There's a principle called third home, right? Your first home is where you live, your second home is where you work, and the third home is where you spend your money. And so for some, that's the gym. For some, that's the coffee shop. For, where you hang out, where you spend, your free time. And if shops can really embrace making their place of business, their community's third home, I think that's huge. I was having this conversation with a colleague just this morning, and he reminded me that we forget about youth a lot too. Really creating youth engaging experiences, bringing younger riders into cycling in a way that's long-term, lasting into their adulthood. Because I played soccer growing up, and I can't just go out on the pitch now at my age and play soccer, right? But I can find an hour or two after work or at lunch to just go hop on my bike and ride to kind of clear my brain. So I think that my biggest piece of advice or insight for bicycle shops, and the one thing that I think will have a great impact, is really seeking out new ridership or embracing that and creating a community around your ride. Doesn't have to be the wild and crazy mountain bike riders or fast-paced road riders. It can just be pub crawls on your bike or casual greenway rides with family or to the farmer's market on Saturday mornings. There's a lot of ways to engage your community.
I like the concept of third home, Steph. That's a really good,
it's not mine. I won't take credit for it. I don't remember where I heard about it, but yeah, I think that it's important.
We talk a lot about moving away from transactional moments and making them more relational. So creating a spot where your customers just want to come just to see your staff or just to see what new products are in the store, just a space that's comfortable for them to, on a bike ride, stop in and say, hey, it's like a third home.
Well, I've never walked into Starbucks without money in my pocket or money on my app, right? And so customers are 100% more likely to spend money when they're standing in your door than when they're not standing in your door. So just making that a safe space for them to come and engage.
Steph, I just want to just congratulate you on your current role. I just see you as just really a dynamic but super approachable person at the same time.
Oh,
you just
thanks.
have all this knowledge. You've worked with so many retailers, so many different steps in the industry along the way. So I always think it's like a superhero suitcase full of traits to have worked on the retailer side and the supply side, and you're a cyclist. So you check all those boxes. Thank you for making the time to come on the podcast.
Oh, I appreciate you having me.
What about listeners who might want to continue the conversation, reach out and just say thanks or ask questions? Is there a best contact that you would share?
Yeah, I'm happy to give you it so you can put on the thing, but my email is easy. It's easy to remember, Steph Allen at giantbicycle.com. Bicycle is singular, not plural, one bicycle. Or find me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to help or be a resource or answer questions. I am not a good resource if you have a warranty problem, if you are a consumer, but I might know the right person. When you said that, I just saw my inbox blowing up with consumer questions. So I'm happy to help however I can.
Steph, thank you so much for coming on Bicycle Retail Radio.
Thank you.
Thanks for spending time with us on Bicycle Retail Radio. If this episode resonated with you, subscribe and share it with another retailer who could use the insight. Join us every week for new conversations and fresh perspectives to keep you ahead of the curve. The NBDA is constantly creating events, webinars, and resources built specifically for bicycle retailers. Check out what's coming up at nbda.com. Shout out to Francis Abbott for today's graphics. Interested in sponsoring an episode or know someone we should talk to? Head to nbda.com. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time.